noise.
Welcome back to the next part of this Truth and Rhythm episode. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you've already done so, please share it with friends. Also become a member by joining Truth and Rhythm on Patreon, or consider donating at funkinstuff.net. Thank you so much for your interest and support. Enjoy.
That's it.
Do you recall Holly, on some of those shows, like opening acts or being on bills with some of the other acts of those days? You already mentioned Incognito, but were there any like funk or soul bands that shared bills with you guys?
Not really. I think he didn't want the competition, Early on in the 60s, now him and Otis Redding had a thing. They would battle it out on stage, I don't know who would go on first, but I mean, they really had a thing. And yeah, it was awesome. I would like to have been there for that, to seen that.
But sometimes he would have some of his own people, though, like maybe open or something for some of those shows.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the band always had to do 2 or 3 songs before he came on. And of course, nobody wanted to hear that. But I'll never forget one time we played I think it was the first time we ever played it, the jazz festival in Copenhagen. Was it Denmark? No, it was in Holland, one of the big jazz festivals. And we came out, band played a couple of songs. Audience was like, okay, okay, we're ready for James. And then we bring the girls singers out and they started singing, and the people stood up and started screaming and booing and waving, go away. I'll never forget that one. It's like, oh man. It's like, James, why do you put us to this? Why do you do this to us? Because they didn't want to hear us. I don't blame them. But there you go. That's what he made you do. So
Yeah, that's not an enviable spot to be in.
no.
Standing between the people and the Godfather of Soul,
That's right. That's right.
So meeting, you got some time though, at least on stage with like Fred Wesley, because he did so many of those arrangements too that were so great for the horns.
Yeah, Fred did. He wrote or scored. I think he wrote it. Most of the soundtrack for that movie. What was it?
The Payback.
Payback. That's right. Yeah, and got no credit for it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that would have made him a boatload of money. And I don't know if he ever got it or not, but he sure did. And it's funny because they said to James, the producers of the movie said, James, we need a chase scene music, and we need a romantic music, and then we need a gunfight music, and all this. They were telling him what they wanted him to write. So he just went in the studio and threw all this stuff down, and he said, here it is, here's your movie. You can't do it like that. He didn't know that, but he said, there's your chase scene, there's your it's like they had to try to make sense out of it, but that's not the way you do movie scores. You actually go by the scene. You look at the scene, you write the music to this. He didn't know that, but it's crazy because he lived his whole career that way. It's like, I do it my way, Yeah. Okay. Frank Sinatra. Yeah. And he did. He did. But wrong or right, and it's like when he did the album at the Apollo Theater, that became one of the biggest selling live albums ever. And he went to the record company and told them, I want to do a live album. They said, are you crazy? You can't do a live album. And they wouldn't support it. So he paid for it himself. And then there you go. It's one of the best live albums ever.
Yeah, he was a trailblazer in so many ways. People, I think, at times lost sight of that a little bit because some of the other stuff. But at the end of the day, you cannot diminish all the areas that he broke new ground in, and his contribution is just immeasurable.
Right.
Doing those shows, did you ever get a little tired of his like shtick, that he would do certain things, or did you just have fun with it?
I had fun with it. I mean, it's paying my bills. So there you go. Had to go with it. Yeah. Sometimes there's a few things he did that just drove us nuts. One of them was during Man's World. He would start naming all these dead people. We called it the dead roll call. And he would name all these dead people. And then it was like, oh, come on. Nobody wants to hear that. Really. And by the way, Tina Turner died today.
Yeah. I heard right before we came on. Rest in peace. What a queen.
Yeah. What an entertainer she was. But anyhow, sorry. I didn't mean to digress.
Well, we're talking legends. Did you ever cross paths or meet her?
I'd never met her. Never did. Never did. I met a lot of people, but not her. But yeah.
Was there anybody that you did meet besides, you mentioned BB King, but just when you were part of that it was kind of a little bit of a thrill for you to meet?
Sting for one. Met Sting and Pavarotti. That's another thing. We played the Pavarotti used to do a show every year, and he'd bring on pop acts to sing with him or whatever. And him and James Brown did Man's World. And I stood there and cried. It was so unbelievable. James topped himself that night, and Pavarotti was singing Man's World. And it was like with a full orchestra behind him. It was the most awesome thing I believe I've ever heard in my life. I think it's still on YouTube. You can find it. But yeah, that was heavy.
Wow. Was that overseas?
Yeah, in Italy. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow. So what year was it that you stepped away, and why?
In '83, I quit because he left us stranded in Sacramento. And the whole band just said, well, the heck with him. We'll just go and do our own thing. And we tried that for a while. And after it just kind of fell apart. But yeah. Yeah, we tried to cut an album and whatnot. He sabotaged it, and eventually everybody one by one went back to him, but I didn't. I stayed away for 7 or 8 years. And then he gets sent to prison, and somebody said, man, you ought to call him. You can talk to him in prison and ask for your job back when you get out of prison. I said, no way. But I did. I called him, and he said, Mr. Farris, I want you to be band leader again. And I said, oh, no, I don't want to be. And he says, then you can't come back. So I said, okay. All right, you got me. I'll be band leader again. So that was that. Yep. And then that was like, I don't know, 88 or something. Yeah, 89. And yeah. Yeah. We did a pay-per-view special. I couldn't believe it. After he got out of prison, it's like, are you kidding? Really? And of course, everybody in the world showed up, Hammer and all these people. But yeah, it was good. was good.
Were you surprised when he ended up going to prison, or did you feel like it was just heading that way?
Oh, I felt like it was heading that way because, yeah, he was erratic and did stuff that I don't know why he didn't get shot. Somebody didn't shoot him because he would even fight the band sometimes. And every time he did, he lost. Let's put it that way. So yeah, he wanted to fight me one time, and I said no. I said, well, I was doing judo at the time, and I said, well, kind of like wrestling. I said, I'll wrestle with you, and he said, what? How you going to wrestle when I got your ass up in the air? Like he's going to pick me up and just hold me up in the air. That was his mindset. It's like, okay, you got me there. It's like the same time, the time that I had these boots that I had bought, and they were terribly uncomfortable. They were terribly uncomfortable. And he saw them on me. He said, Mr. Farris, I like your boots. I said, you want to buy them? He said, yeah, I'll buy them from you. So I sold them to him. And then every time after that, when he'd see me and had those boots on, he said, Mr. Farris, I got your boots. They look good, don't they? Finally, I got tired of him saying that. And I said, well, yeah, they look good, but they're terribly uncomfortable. And he went, yeah, but you can't see comfort. He always had a comeback. He would get it. He was the winner of every comeback. I said, you got me there. You can't see comfort. That was his mindset, just so you can look good. That was what he was about. Yes, sir.
When you connected with him post prison, how different was it from the sort of last times you had dealt with him on that level?
Well, he was straight because he dried out in prison, and it was good. Everything was good, man. We were booking these big. He became more popular than he had in 20 years. Once he got out of prison, and it's like, well, okay, gangbusters, here we go. And we started doing these tours in Europe and whatnot. And he had about 20 dancers. It was a mess. But yeah, it was good. It was good. And then eventually it started to deteriorate. But yeah, I hung in there. And then after he died, I got immediately called to play with Joss Stone. And I said, I'll take it. So I ended up being with her for 7 years. And yeah, that was good. She's superb. She's a fantastic singer. Yeah. And the last show we did with her, we were in New Zealand, and she would always come out and throw roses to the crowd for encore. And so one night I stole one of her dresses, and I found a wig and put a wig on. And when she started throwing the roses, I came out and started throwing some flowers out there too. And the crowd just went nuts. They couldn't believe it. I can't believe I didn't get fired for that. But anyway, it was fun.
I take it she had a good sense of humor.
She did. She was nice. She was really a super person. Great singer. And Steve Winwood was fantastic. That was one of the best tours I ever did in my life, was with him. He was excellent singer, excellent musician, nice guy. We used to hike together and whatnot. He loved to hike. That was his thing. So yeah.
How did he catch wind of you, or how did that connection happen?
Well, funny thing is, the two guys I got from my band to join James, one of them was a keyboard player, Mike Lawler. He called me up when I was living in New York and said, man, I want you to come down and play with Steve Winwood. But you have to leave tomorrow. I said, I'll be there. I'll be there tomorrow. And I left immediately and came back to Nashville and joined Steve Winwood. And that was fantastic. What a good, he had a #1 hit record that summer when we were on tour. So that's something not many people can get to enjoy, but yeah, it was great.
Two of the best blue-eyed soul artists, Steve Winwood and Joss Stone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. True. Yeah.
Did it happened where did Shaka Khan come on stage for any of the
No,
stops
but
for
she
Steve
should
Winwood?
have. She should have, because that poor little girl that we had couldn't quite cut it. She couldn't do no. Who can do Shaka Khan but Shaka Khan? Which she was on the album. So was James Taylor. Yeah, but yeah, Shaka Khan. That would have been great. That would have been. Glad you thought of that.
Well, that helped revive her career at a time when it was sort of dragging, kind of like what James Brown went through. And then Shaka Khan is, got him back big again. And she's going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year, finally.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's about time, in my opinion. So any other folks that you played with that we would have heard of besides those two?
As far as touring, no. Well, yeah, one other group, the Commitments. It was an Irish band that they did the movie called The Commitments.
Yeah, Parker directed that. Alan Parker, I think.
What?
Was it Alan Parker that directed The Commitments?
I don't know.
I think so.
Could be. But yeah, I toured with them for a minute. Not very long, but yeah. Yeah. They were a good bunch of guys and gals. Yeah. They were fun. They were really fun. Talented. They're really talented.
That was a good music, one of the better music movies, because the music was actually pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
For folks that aren't familiar with that, I think it came out in the 80s.
I think so.
Yeah. Check it out, rent it. So is there any, you mentioned Pavarotti, but is there any other show highlight that just really stands in your mind related to James Brown experiences?
Well, like I said, the Beverly Theater with Michael Jackson and Prince that's got to be way up there. The Tonight Show when we did Johnny Carson was a good one because again, he makes the white guy come out and dance. He made me dance on Johnny Carson, and I got to play a trumpet solo. And then one of the best trumpet players in the world was sitting in the audience, Arturo Sandoval. And then there's Doc Severinsen over there in the band. And I'm like, And of course, they made fun of me. I'm like, okay, I'll take it. I deserve it. Yeah.
Had you ever seen a James Brown show before you became part of that group?
Never did. Never. Yeah. Yeah, we played a lot of incredible play. We played in the Kremlin one time in Russia. Don't know how we got that gig, but we did. And we also played in Morocco for the king of Morocco for his brother's birthday party, the prince's birthday party. We played. And they had 3 acts, Eartha Kitt, Earth, Wind, and Fire, and then James Brown. And we did our set, and we were literally 30 seconds from the show being over. We were doing Sex Machine, and the Prince jumped up on stage and started dancing, not bothering anybody. And James stopped the show, took him by the arm, and drug him off the stage. And you could have heard the audible gasp in the crowd. It's like, James Brown is manhandling the Prince of Morocco. And we thought, oh no. So anyway, we finished the show and they took us straight to the airport. We went directly to the airport. We went to the hotel, got our bags, and went straight to the airport in the middle of the night. They wanted us out of there. So it was like, okay, instead of getting the Rolex, which most performers got, we got early flight out.
Wow.
We got our heads chopped off, but I don't know.
Hollie, do you have any I want to ask you is what would be your favorite James Brown track, either to listen to or to play back when you were playing them?
I don't know. There's so many that I do like. It's hard to pick. It really is. Wow. Caught me off guard there.
Do you prefer the up tempo to the slow stuff though?
Oh, yeah. And at one point in his career, he started speeding everything up. It was like it totally lost the funk, totally lost the groove. And we're like, oh man, please slow it down. But later on, he started slowing stuff down again. So it got funky again. But yeah, as long as it wasn't too fast, we were good.
Yeah, that's what I sensed too. At some point along the way, the stuff was too up tempo.
Yeah, way,
And yeah.
way too fast.
What do you have any advice for horn players to properly execute the funk, and be able to stay in that pocket, stay in that groove?
You know what? We had a guitar player that knew every James Brown song, white guy, he knew all of James Brown's stuff, but he wasn't funky. And it's like, how do you know every James Brown song and yet you still can't play funky? But it's something you either got or you don't got, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if you can teach it. You can be made aware of it. And that's been the problem with a lot of bands I played with. It's like trying to, that's not funky enough, but you just really can't teach it. You can't. You got to feel it. It's a hard thing to describe,
Yeah, even describing it is hard, right? I mean, because it's so much just an innate feeling that you either got or you don't, right?
Right.
Do you feel like you got funkier being part of James Brown's band than you were?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, yes. I mean, I thought I knew funk till I joined him, and it's like, oh, this is what it is. Yeah. Whole nother thing.
You guys never did a bill that had maybe Parliament Funkadelic on it also, like a Funk Fest kind of thing?
No. I think we did one time. We did one time, but it wasn't like the full blown production that they usually have. It was like they were the opening act and we were but yeah, it was, it was kind of weird because, they just had, George Clinton and doing his thing. And of course, I've seen them when I was back in the 80s, when they were really hot, and it was like, wow, that's quite the show. And they took James Brown and took his horns. They took his horn section.
And Bootsy.
Yeah, that's right.
And
right.
Catfish.
And Catfish. Yeah, man. There you go.
Yeah, they definitely ran with the one that he created. What would you say you're most proud of accomplishing in your music career?
My career, still being alive. I mean, yeah. I'm so lucky to still be here at my age, and I'm not going to tell you how old I am, 76. But yeah, it's like so many people younger than me have passed. It's like even James was 74. He's younger than me when he passed. It's like, wow, it's too early. Anything's too early, but yeah. What was the question?
What are you most proud of accomplishing in your career?
Just making it through, we're playing all these famous artists and fantastic groups. And yeah, I'm still here to tell the story, so to speak. But yeah, that's what I'm proud of.
Well, and we're all very much glad for it, Hollie, that you are still with us to tell these stories, because they got to be told, and they got to be preserved, and people that maybe weren't around then need to know, and it's so important. So thank you for that. And let's see if Tom is still around. You can bring in your partner in horn playing here. Hey, welcome, Tom. Why don't you tell viewers who you are?
I'm Tom Palardy. I was listening to some of the things you all said. Tina Turner passed away. I used to play the breaks for Ike and Tina Turner at the Jardini's Club Imperial in St. Louis with a wonderful band called the Galaxies and the Bondells, singers. The lead singer of that group was Bill Staples, who was Mavis Staples' nephew, I believe. He's still in Atlanta. As a matter of fact, he's one of the few people still around these days. I'm catching up to Hollie. I'm right behind him as far as that mysterious age that he just let y'all know about. But I'm from St. Louis originally. Got to play with Chuck Berry when I was 16 years old. He just comes walking in Berry Park when we were playing and said, "How you doing, fellas?" Sets up his guitar, and just starts playing. I didn't realize how cool that was till I got to be my age.
And how did you and Hollie meet first?
There's a band called the 1969 Band that he's worked with and knows a lot of the guys in Nashville. And I got into that band, asked if they need a sax player. And they said, yeah, and didn't even rehearse. I knew everything they played. I've been doing it since I was about 12, I think. And Hollie was playing with them every now and then. And we just became good friends. He's such a great trumpet player and an amazing guy. I really, really like old Hollie.
I'll send you a check later.
76, Hollie, but how many flips are you doing these days?
0.
That's okay.
0 flips.
That's okay. It's probably for the best. So your group is called 1969, and is that still, you guys still play shows with that, or?
No, they split up. I was the new guy, and I was there with them for 23 years. But there were a bunch of guys that had gone to high school together in Nashville, and I moved to Nashville in about 75, and started playing with them in the 80s, I guess it was. Anyway, it was just R&B, great. We did a lot of James Brown stuff, Jerry Butler, and on and on. It was a fun band. 4 horns.
Yeah.
What else do you need besides that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who had between you guys, who had the best horn section of the R&B bands? When you're looking at Tower of Power, Earth, Wind and Fire horns, Parliament horn, all these different horn groups. Is there one that Chicago, that you guys thought, was really it?
Gosh, Chicago was great. I mean, Tower of Power is real hard to beat, I think. But Hollie's probably more knowledgeable about all that than I am, having played with all these people. But I mean, Doc on the Barry and Tower of Power, and those guys were just so
toss
tight.
up, man. Toss up. Come on, man. Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Chicago.
Yeah, that's true.
Power.
That's
Come
true.
on.
Oh, they're all good about it. I had the pleasure of playing a lot of their music back in St. Louis.
Yeah, we had Tower of Power open for James a couple of times. Yeah.
Ooh.
And James said, "Oh, they're just high school."
Still digging on James Brown.
Still digging on James Brown. That was one of their big songs.
And more funky white guys too.
Yeah. They sure were.
So, Tom, has Hollie laid everything out for us, or are there some stories we didn't hear?
Oh, I've heard a few new ones today. I knew the one about rescuing him. I didn't know that he made $200 saving his life. That was part I hadn't heard before, but that's a great story. I mean, I just it's amazing. I think he's got a lot of good war stories about James.
So you guys are working together currently, or what's happening?
I without trying to brag, we're working for 6 months on a new CD of 14 original songs. We just finished it. I just got the CDs a couple weeks ago. I just sent Hollie his copy.
Yes.
We had horn sections on 10 of them. And we had more fun with doing this project. I dug a lot of tunes out of my early catalog that I thought were strong. Back in the opening song, Sam and Dave was holding it to cut back in 1970, but they passed on it. But it's just, but Hollie played trumpet, and a wonderful trombone player named Billy Bargetzi played trombone from Huntsville. And it was just, I just smile every time I listen to this thing. I'm just getting ready to digitally get it out there on all the, the streaming services, and the official release date of it is June the 5th.
So is there a website or a place that people can look for that?
Well, yeah, my tompallardy.com, TOMPALLARDY.com is my website, which is, it's live now. It's almost tweaked to where we want it. And then I'm on Facebook too at Tom Palardy, and I have a band called the OMG Band, which stands for Old Music Guys, and we play a lot of R&B stuff. Well, I thank Hollie for allowing me to do this with you guys. I didn't fall asleep or anything. It was great.
Thanks a lot. Kiss my ass.
Hollie, is there anything that you want to plug, or are you good?
No, nothing. The James Brown Band is still performing a couple of times a year, but yeah, it's kind of reached a lull point. I mean, 17 years he's been dead, so let's let the man go ahead and die. It was great trying to build up, interest in James, but I don't think anybody knows who he is anymore. I don't know.
Oh, well, they know who he is, of course. I think you're being facetious. But all right, well, you guys. Hey, I appreciate it so much. I'm glad we could get the technology together finally.
Yeah, sorry about that, man. I don't know.
I thoroughly enjoyed listening to you do your thing.
Well, thank you. Thank you. As a fellow saxophone player, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Scott.
Take care, you guys.
Okay. Bye-bye.
See you, Hollie.
Bye. See you, Scott.
Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Truth in Rhythm. A big thank you goes out to our guest as well as to you, the viewer and listener. Also, much gratitude to Pleasure for supplying the show's funky opening and closing music. As a reminder, you can always access the complete list of linked shows by episode at funkandstuff.net. I urge you to support this program and receive the extra benefits along with that by subscribing to the Funk and Stuff channel on YouTube and sharing it with funk, R&B, and jazz lovers, joining Truth and Rhythm's membership program at Patreon, submitting a donation at funkandstuff.net, buying Everything is on the One, the First Guide to Funk book at Amazon, shopping at the Funky Things store for cool merchandise at funkandstuff.net, and linking through funkandstuff.net for all of your Amazon purchases. In addition, if you're an artist or anyone seeking proven, results-oriented professional marketing, PR, writing, or editing consultation or production, check out the media services section at funkandstuff.net. Also, I encourage you to drop me a line at scottg@funkandstuff.net. I love the feedback, suggestions, guest requests, appearance and sponsorship inquiries, and just talking about my favorite subject, groove-based music. For now, and as always, this is Scott Dr. GX Goldfine saying, keep on vibing to the rhythm of the one.